Top 10 Fascinating Construction Site Secrets. Property development is difficult to miss. Whatever city or large town that you visit, there will most likely be a construction site in the vicinity. 10. The Job Box. When the site is closed for the evening or the weekend and the workers' shifts are over, there is a consistent sight whenever a crane is involved. The crane, despite being unmanned and shut down, holds a metal container in the sky, giving the appearance of a lazy worker who dismissed the idea of lowering it before they clocked off. In actuality, the crane holds the container high off the ground for a particular purpose. It is storing the equipment that would otherwise be at risk of being stolen from the empty site. This container is referred to as the job box as it is filled to the brim with tools and other construction equipment, such as the generator. 9. How did it get up there? It is understandable to wonder how a crane often growls as it constructs a high-rise building. No matter how high the building becomes, the crane that constructed it always stands higher. What few people know is that cranes are built in the same way that the building is. A second crane is often set up in order to build the main crane to the appropriate height. Once the initial crane and the building reach a height that would make it difficult to increase any further, the top of the crane is lifted by hydraulics, splitting it into different segments, with an additional section of support placed below it. 8. Mockups. Larger construction sites will often have an artistic rendering of what the building will look like once the work is done. The purpose of these mock-ups is presumed to be to inform the passing general public of what the previously different or empty space will be in the near future. However, the renderings mostly exist to comfort those living or working nearby, ensuring them that the construction of a new building is a positive thing. It is common for people to be concerned about change, especially if a building had to be destroyed in order to make room for the newly constructed one. 7. The Elf Whisperer. In Iceland, there is a person who protests against construction sites quite often. Many Icelandic natives believe in elves, resulting in the need for a representative who has the duty of investigating potential construction sites, with the aim being to ensure that the land that is to be built on is absent of any elves. Whilst this may sound eccentric, the elves are often used as a metaphor for the environment. In the same way that certain buildings are preserved for their historical significance, the Elf Whisperer exists to ensure that Iceland maintains its beauty as a country, void of buildings and places that would otherwise make for a beautiful and historically preserved view. 6. Hard hats. It is a legal requirement that every visitor or worker on a construction site must wear a hard hat. What many do not know, however, is that in many countries, the hard hats are color-coded, depending on the wearer's role on the site. It is the white hats that most workers keep an eye open for during their shift, as it is often the case that wearers of the white hard hats are present to ensure all actions on site comply exactly with health and safety standards. One of the reasons for the color coding is so a worker can quickly determine in an emergency who the safety officer is, or the first aider. It is also known to represent the difference between skill levels. For example, a novice construction worker may wear a different colored hat to a more skilled worker. 5. Umbrella. In certain countries, it is common for construction sites to be under constant observation by elderly, often retired, men. In Bologna, these men are referred to as umbrella, which translates to little man, a term of mockery as well as observation. The retired men who stand beside the gates of construction sites, waiting for the work to be finished, are known to offer advice to the workers, based on their own experiences. One can only presume that this onlooking is done out of a place of boredom, rather than protest. In 2015, Rishin's government approved a budget of €11,000 which was to be used to pay the umbrellas. The reason that they decided to pay the onlookers was led to the proposal that it would decrease the amount of theft from the sites. The old men who would be stood around watching the site, regardless of the weather, could be paid to count the number of vans and other deliveries to and from the site. When the site was non-operational, the men are also useful as guards, as they are able, and now, duty-bound, to observe sites from their nearby homes. Whilst their presence may be a nuisance at times, at least they can be utilized for good. 4. The King Lad. On a construction site, An apprentice can wear many hats, not literally. In reality, he only wears the one hard hat to signify his role as an apprentice. Not only are they expected to observe the construction workers and take over the more menial tasks that require repetitiveness rather than skill, the transportation of materials or the screwing of nails in determined places. For example, apprentices are also tasked with performing sandwich runs or trips to the store for biscuits. The latter non-construction related aspects of the job are covered under the unwritten rules of the kinlad. The kinlad being a colloquialism originated from northern England. Whilst these jobs may be simple, some of them are far from easy. A large task for the kinlad is to ensure that the water urn is full and heated on command. The water urn is essentially a large kettle, with a faucet for dispersing the water after it has boiled. 3. Mice. The smallest public statue in London was created as a result of an argument on a construction site. The piece is titled Two Mice Eating Cheese and represents a couple of mice fighting over a piece of cheese. This is reminiscent of an incident from 1862 when a pair of construction workers fell from scaffolding after arguing about the disappearance of their lunch. It was revealed after a brief investigation that nearby mice had taken and hidden the food. 2. Stealing space. Many believe that dumping their trash into a construction site dumpster is completely harmless. After all, it is convenient and will be filled with trash regardless of their actions. What many do not realize is that a contractor can be fined for any refuse in the bin that is not debris from the construction site. After all, trash must be sorted into categories in order to be disposed of, so the addition of non-construction debris would cause issues for those who have hired the dumpster. 1. We'll build around it. When a construction project is approved, few things will get in the contractor's way. This includes the presence of residential houses in the area. Oftentimes, stubborn homeowners will refuse to sell their property, which results in the project being constructed around the remaining houses. In China, those who refuse to comply with redevelopment projects are permitted to stay, with their homes gaining the title of a nail house. This only became a problem in China in recent years, as the stricter earlier rules ensured that people were not allowed to own property privately at all. This made it easy to move residents in favor of construction projects. The origin of the term nail house is that the individual private homes that exist in the middle of large construction sites stick out and are difficult to remove like a stubborn nail.